So thank you so much for coming by. I'm Cousin. I'm the manager of Soluna Fine Art, and I have never expected we'll have that much guests. So that's very good news. That we mean people are coming out again. So before starting our artist talk, I just love to give you a brief introduction of our gallery, also the exhibition. We're called Soluna Fine Art. Our owner, Miss Rachel Lee, is Korean, so most of our artists are actually from South Korea. So for this show, it's a dual exhibition, and it's our first time to work with a Hong Kong artist, Miss Joanne Chan. In this show, it's called Between Us. So we want to kind of create an intimate, feminine dialogue between two female painters. As you can see, most of the works here are all abstract landscape. And further in the artist talk, we will know more about the artist's creative process and their inspiration, etc. So without further ado, let's start with this discussion. So first I would love to ask you both, what does abstract painting mean to you? Perhaps we can start with Joanne first.
For me, abstract it is something that really private and direct, but at the same time, it also can give a lot of space for our audience to understand, to think, or imagine. Because the reason why I'm doing abstract it is when I first started in London, I just experienced some very depressive period of time. I hide myself in my flat, and then the only way I can, after the research of what I'm doing in my essay is about something like the war and the reincarnation, the cycle that the humans mistake that I've been taken. I think too much. I thought a lot. And then the reason I use abstract is because this is the only way I can express myself completely without lying or without the additional hidden method. Because when I try to fix something, I always think in a better way and in my sense. But if I'm doing abstract, it's no way for me to hide myself, and then it just reflect and embed myself completely visually through the painting itself. And it actually is one of the way I go through my limitation. Because when I'm stuck and I can't draw, but when I'm able to draw one stroke or start the abstract painting, I can feel the process within my inner growth. And I think it is very soft. And then when the audience see the painting, they can actually really feel my condition and my situation when I do that. But after the times when I grow older, after the few years, when the audience see it again with a different way of feelings, the painting is totally different. So I think the gentleness of the painting of abstract, it provides the space and the time for everyone. Yeah.
So what about Zongson? What does abstract painting mean to you?
Can you hear me? Okay. I think any painting at some point is abstract, because when I just paint outdoor, like these are the paintings I usually paint outdoor. There are sort of really vast nature in front of you. There is no way that you could describe or even copy what you see. So you have to subtract the information. That's how abstraction begins. But some people, just like composing music, decide to do what sort of music you want to play. Is it more like 1, 2, 8, 9, or those sort of combinations. So depends on what I want to focus on that day. My music or my probably painting, poetry, whatever it is inside could change in any moment. And it's all about also improvising too. And also Joanne mentioned about the sort of restriction, right? Sometimes, a lot of times, restriction bring up more creativity in a way. When you don't have much, you have to come up with something. And I think that's a really fun part of abstract art for me.
Yeah, and also actually when you do abstract, you don't know where this destination is. So for me, it is very exciting. It's like a journey. every time when I start something, it's like another some adventure for me. I never know what else is
Yes.
coming up, and then when you go through the bottleneck, you know it is complete, and you know one of your lessons is complete. Yeah, it's more about inner side. Yeah.
I think also adding on to both artists' comments of what abstract painting means to them, I think when we create the show, we intentionally, because we have 2 floors, but we didn't separate artists according, between 2 floors. We intentionally mix them up and create more like a dialogue in between. So on each floor, you will see how the way we place the artworks, they're actually kind of talking to each other. Because I would say, although both artists, they create abstract paintings, they have 2 different directions. I would describe Joanne's works are from inwards to outwards, because Joanne herself, she practiced a lot of meditation and also different spiritual practices. When she creates works, she loves to kind of treat creating abstract painting kind of like a meditative process. So through that process, she really pours her heart, and all those emotions and thoughts, they are all embedded in the work. For Zongson, it's a different direction. She is a very perceptual painter. So she loves to go to outdoors, Happy Valley or St. Yves. So she loves to observe different objects, architectures, or people around her. But usually those subjects, it means to her a lot. So it's almost like observing a work, then when she paints, the emotions inject into the canvas. So I would describe both are painting abstract landscapes, but the creative direction is a different direction. Yeah. So perhaps we can talk about within this show, because for Zongson we have 14 works. For Joanne, we have 8. So with such vast amount of works in this show, I would love to ask both. Is there any work in this show that means more dearly to you? Perhaps Johnson can start first.
This is a question that probably I hate to answer. Like, I have a twin, so which one I like better, or like mother and father. But so each painting, I see my struggle and some of my new direction achievements. So it just really I just find that each one that I found it really special in a way. But if I could think about it, since I'm a kind of old-fashioned plein air painter still, for me that being in the nature in front of the some of the still life I hear, I set it up. Setting up is also very important part for me. So set it up and I observe for a long period of time. I wrote a sketchbook just in case anyone wants to see it, and then start with some brief drawing. And then I really get some information about the space and what I want to say. So that's why I just started a very small panel and bring it outside and I started painting. But first time probably, there is one painting called the Sea Ranch upstairs. That one is, I just have a limitation of time that I knew. So I just bring the sketchbook and then just didn't bring much of a painting material. So I did I observed as much as I can. And the upstairs painting is the first one. With the information and memory I have the space, I completed in the studio. Start from studio and completed in the studio. So that's pretty something new, which is special to me.
About Joanne.
For me, you guys can actually see the paintings behind me, but today the paintings I would like to talk about is the one upstairs as well. It's just next to the table. You will see a very bright aurora skies. That painting, later when you see it, you can actually tell the coherence and the language from this one, but they're not exactly the same. They're quite different, but still you can see, if you can see where does it come from. The time is quite, the timing about when I create this painting, and that one is quite special for me because They were both started. The one upstairs started from 2019. Everyone in Hong Kong have a very chaotic period of time, and as an artist, a very emotional and sensitive one, I have a lot of pain inside my heart for whatever reason, and then I can't really draw last year, but I still start something, but I just can't do it completely. I stopped in one of the period of time. If you have my Instagram, Joanne Chan Studio, you can check it out. You can see it was the painting you can see now actually is unfold and transform from a drained grass, petty crystals situation located in somewhere of nowhere like a desert way, really drained, but under an aurora skies. And now you can still see the aurora, but you can see a fruitful and abundance way of island. It is a transformation. For me, I didn't expect it would turn into something like that. Just giving myself a year of time and space to pause, to go through the emotion or experience. Because the way I do this painting is in the early 2020. I finished my second solo, and I have a lot of reflection to myself and to my paintings in the past 8 years, the start of when I do my abstract painting. So the way you can see upstairs is quite a big transform, and then I can, what I feel really special is time and space is really important. If we are not able to go through something, sometimes it is okay to stop. It is okay to pause and give us allowance to stay at where we want to be at that stage. Yeah, thank you.
I think for a lot of painters, definitely their works represent what they think, what they're going through. But I think especially with abstract art, it's even more about this because abstract art relies heavily on simple forms in painting, the color, the composition, the thickness of the paint, and the texture. It's all the basic essentials of creating a painting. So with that, in that context, I think when artists create abstract paintings, not only the artist's emotion is all there, but for the audience, when they really observe a painting, because of all of these very simple forms, the emotions really can stir up and allow a larger space for interpretation, also for viewers. So because we all have landscape paintings in the show, so for example, maybe from Zongson's work, they are all very daily life objects, like vases or buildings and trees, a lot of things. But although very simple, for different viewer, these different settings represent a different set of emotions. So although artist has their intention, I think with the viewers in the context of abstract painting, it allows more freedom to understand not only the artists, but themselves. And for Joanne, I think it's the same because not only of her spiritual practices, but as you can see, perhaps later you can see upstairs the work that she described is called Common Ground. And I saw the difference between the old and the finished work. It shows what she was going through during that very chaotic later, yeah. It's very chaotic period. And you can see those compositions really do show what she's going through. So I think it will be very interesting for you guys to have a look later on. So lastly, I would like to ask you both, what message do you want to convey to the audience through this duo show for Zongson to work with a Hong Kong artist and for Joanne vice versa? So Zongson, would you like to start first?
Yes, it's just very difficult time. Rachel suggested we will just have a show. I kind of I'm thinking myself, pandemic, a lot of people are suffering, and art is something not necessary, right, to me. So I'm asking myself, is it a really good time? But then, because of this, I think the art, this unnecessary sort of things, has been with us for thousands of years. And I think it's just what it meant to be a human, despite any time, right? And then I'm really grateful for Rachel, Cousin, and Cheryl, and all the people that are probably in this art field, which is hard time, but they kind of come out and still say, some of the things that we, human do, right? I think it's really special, and also the activity. This is my first exhibition, so for the time, for a long time, I was just hiding and painting in my painting La La Land. I don't see the meaning of communicate with the viewer that much, but I think after that Rachel suggested, I remember all those moments that I was in the museum gallery and I was inspired by this painting and I stood up there for like 20 minutes. So there are some moments that I probably could just, fraction of time that I could give to somebody. I think it would be really good. And another thing is, whatever happened, that whenever I go out, any day that to paint, any sort of dying sort of plant or like really like dust being, any sort of just small object, when light and nature sort of meet and light hit in a certain angle, create a beautiful image, and which is a world that we live in. So yeah, that's my message.
Thank you. So Leslie, what about you, Joanne?
I think I have bring up something I really would like to share in last question. Like when we are under some situation that we cannot complete or go through, give us affirm ourselves, because emotion it is real sometimes. But when we fall into the trap, we will be trapped in one thing. But when we are able to understand, it is just a course. It is just one of the lessons in our life. But if we would like to stay, we can, even it is very destructive. Sometimes I did have destructive emotion when I'm in my own world. But if we trap ourselves inside, we have to know one thing: this is our choice. No one forced us to stay there. And then when we feel okay, we can come out and then move on to our next step. Because everything happening with a reason of love of ourselves, which is it actually. And it is one of the things I learned from meditate, and it is really really impressive once we experience how we go out from our own world. Yeah, between us, it is something. The first time for me as a duo show with another artist. This is my first time to have a duo, and the way we have conversation in this space. The way I saw Rachel's painting is very soothing, and Joseph's paintings, because when I really enjoy her energy, and then it made me more grounding. You can tell the differences, but you can still see how it is interesting to different people we have never met before, but doing something really similar, but in different direction, but still can connect in some point. So the most important message I would like to share is just believe in ourselves, affirm ourselves, and believe in ourselves so we can see what's next in our lives.
All right, would you please give a round of applause for both artists first? Thank you for such in detailed sharing. So we can have a short Q&A session for now for both artists or for me if you like. Yes, do any of you have any questions for the artists? Anything? Yes.
Sure. For Zongson,
Yeah.
I guess are there any particular artists that you're inspired by? Because it looks kind of a bit of Matisse and kind of the 19th century or early kind of that Matisse landscape. So, I mean, do you have any particular influences?
You give me the biggest compliment, right?
Well, because it kind of has that color, right? But then,
Matisse is my hero. Right before this exhibition, of course you feel nervous, right? Because my first experience. And then I read it somewhere, Matisse has a chronic stomach ache all the time because he was not well received by critics and people don't understand everything. So I kind of like, okay, I could have some stomach ache during the exhibition. But yes, I'm kind of like, I mean, my children here, they know, but I love buying art books. I'm surrounded by art books because looking at other people's paintings and the books and all these things which they have been doing, I think that's a really important part of my painting. So I always get inspired by other artists. I usually love the museum, galleries, any show. But also, if Hong Kong I cannot, I usually go to Pinterest and then find the new artists and then order some books. And so each sort of when you start painting, a lot of times it's like a little bit like making movie a little bit. Like you think about major actor or sometimes supporting actress, which is like sometimes live or sort of some images you see. But a lot of times they lead me. I don't lead them, right? And then also there are some of the people that I love to paint like them also came to me and this time. So Richard Livingstone's show I was blown away with, and also there are some of the British painters like David Hockney I love. Matisse, my favorite, Morandi. There are some paintings I was thinking about Soutine. Yeah, so many. So yes.
Thank you. Is there any more questions for Joanne or Zongson?
I guess same question. Are there any particular artists that influence you
Yeah,
or that
sure.
you're drawn to?
Yeah. Actually, Zongson just mentioned David Hockney. I like David Hockney a lot. The first time I saw his work is in the Museum of in UK. The one Tate. Yeah, I saw it Tate, and then it was very impressive. But at that moment, I'm not that kind of interested in the giant solo painting yet. But it is something that impressed within my mind. It just stopped. And then after all the years, I actually bought his book. But then in the early age, I actually like Peter Doyle a lot. Peter Doyle, the first time I saw his painting also is in Tate when I studied in London. And the thickness and everything, the way he draws actually inspired me a lot. So I think these two painters actually brings a lot of inspiration to me. But for the artists, I'm not only about painter. I like there's a Marina
Abramovich. Yeah.
Yes, she actually inspired me a lot through the concept about being an artist because, I like meditate, I like to think a lot. In numerology, I'm a kind of person number 7 within, and then I actually overthink a lot. And the way she performs, the way she stares the audience is one of the performance I really like to share with my audience. if I'm older, she have already done that. But I should do my way of similar thing because I think energy between every soul is very unique. And then the time you be stared or focused by someone is very precious. Like nowadays, we always focus on something that we are distracted with a lot of information. But if one people or someone who is willing to listen to you, very focusing on you, only you, even just a second, this is something that I think is really important. I always ask myself one question when I was young: am I real? Especially when I play a game called Sims, because you can set up avatar inside and someone is manipulate where you should go and where you have to do. And in Hong Kong, there's another really concept about making money. I'm thinking about, am I going to go to school and make a lot of money, get married, and think, what is life? Why am I here? What is the meaning of life? This is the topic I did in my dissertation. I asked a lot of questions like that about life, and then it actually bothered me a lot. If I don't think that much, I will be easier. I'm better now, but yeah, this is the origin. That's why I really like those artists who discuss or think in a psychological way to think about human, or in a philosophical way. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Just again, is there any more questions? If not, that's for today's artist talk. And thank you again for coming to our show and gallery. So please feel free to go around the show, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask me and my colleagues. Thank you so much.
Thank you.